Today, I want to remind you of a prayer that does not beg, a prayer that does not panic, a prayer that does not chase money. Money responds to alignment, not desperation. This truth feels uncomfortable because desperation is loud, emotional, and familiar, while alignment is quiet, grounded, and patient. Most people are taught, directly or indirectly, that when they need money, they should worry more, work harder, panic faster, and beg louder. But desperation carries a hidden message: I am afraid I am lacking, and I do not trust the flow of provision. That message does not attract support, it repels it. Money, opportunities, and resources move toward stability, clarity, and confidence, not chaos. Alignment begins internally. It starts with how you see yourself. When someone believes they are always behind, always unlucky, or always struggling, their decisions unconsciously reinforce that belief. They accept low-value opportunities, delay bold moves, underprice their skills, or remain silent when they should speak. This is not because they are lazy or incapable, but because their inner state is misaligned with receiving. Money does not simply appear in your life. It enters through channels created by decisions, conversations, and actions. Desperation collapses those channels by narrowing vision and increasing fear. When you are desperate, every choice feels urgent. Urgency weakens wisdom. You grab what is available instead of what is aligned. You say yes to what drains you and no to what requires growth. Alignment, on the other hand, slows you down just enough to see clearly. It allows you to ask better questions. Does this opportunity respect my time? Does this path build long-term stability? Does this decision move me closer to or further from who I am becoming? These questions are invisible to a desperate mind, but natural to an aligned one. Alignment also affects how others perceive you. People can sense when someone is operating from fear. Desperation leaks into tone, body language, and communication. It makes requests feel heavy and negotiations feel tense. In contrast, alignment creates calm confidence. When you speak without inner panic, people trust you more. They listen more carefully. They are more willing to collaborate, invest, recommend, or open doors. Many unexpected financial breakthroughs are not miracles falling from the sky, but human responses to someone who finally feels grounded and clear. Another overlooked aspect of alignment is emotional order. Money avoids emotional chaos. If your inner world is filled with guilt, resentment, self-doubt, and comparison, abundance has nowhere to rest. It may come briefly, but it will leave quickly. Alignment means cleaning the inner space, releasing the belief that struggle equals virtue, forgiving past financial mistakes, and letting go of the identity of someone who never has enough. This is not positive thinking. It is emotional maturity. When your emotions stabilize, your choices stabilize, and money responds to stability. Desperation also disconnects people from timing. When you are desperate, everything feels late. You feel behind, rushed, and pressured. Alignment reconnects you with timing. You begin to sense when to act and when to wait, when to push and when to prepare. This sensitivity to timing is one of the main reasons aligned people receive money unexpectedly. They move when the window is open instead of forcing doors that are closed. What looks like luck from the outside is often timing from the inside. Alignment does not mean doing nothing. It does not mean waiting passively for money to arrive. It means acting without inner resistance. It means working without self-contempt, planning without fear, and asking without shame. It means trusting that provision responds to who you are becoming, not how loudly you are begging. When effort flows from alignment, it compounds. When effort flows from desperation, it exhausts. In conclusion, money does not run toward urgency, fear, or emotional noise. It moves toward clarity, responsibility, and inner order. Desperation contracts the mind and limits possibility, while alignment expands perception and opens pathways. The forgotten prayer for unexpected money is not a plea for rescue. It is a return to balance. When your inner world aligns with confidence, worthiness, and calm expectation, money no longer needs to be chased. It recognizes the environment as safe, the timing as right, and the person as ready, and it comes. The prayer is about identity, not begging. This is one of the most misunderstood ideas when it comes to money and spirituality. From an early age, many people are conditioned to approach life from a posture of lack. They are taught, subtly or directly, that they must ask small, stay quiet, and hope someone notices their need. This posture follows them into their prayers, their work, and their financial decisions. When money becomes scarce, they beg out loud or silently, not only to people, but to life itself. Yet begging reinforces the belief that you are powerless and unworthy, and that belief shapes everything that follows. Identity-based prayer works differently. It does not deny need, but it refuses to define the self by that need. Instead of saying, "I have nothing, please give me," it says, "I am aligned with provision, restore what belongs in my life." This shift is subtle but powerful. When you pray from identity, you are not asking to be saved from your life. You are stepping into responsibility for it. You are no longer positioning yourself as a victim of circumstances, but as a participant in a larger order where provision responds to self, awareness, and growth. Begging focuses on what is missing. Identity focuses on what is true. When you repeatedly focus on lack, your mind begins to search for evidence of lack everywhere. You notice bills more than opportunities, obstacles more than options, risks more than possibilities. This shapes behavior. You hesitate when you should act, undervalue you yourself when you should assert, and tolerate conditions that quietly drain your potential. An identity-centered prayer interrupts this pattern by reminding you who you are beneath the pressure. It brings you back to your values, your abilities, and your capacity to contribute. Praying from identity also changes the way you relate to money itself. Instead of seeing money as a judge, a reward, or a symbol of worth, you begin to see it as a tool that responds to stewardship. You stop asking, "Why won't money come to me?" and start asking, "Am I becoming someone who can direct money with wisdom?" This question shifts the focus from external rescue to internal readiness, and readiness attracts resources. There is also a deep emotional healing that happens when prayer moves away from begging. Begging often carries shame. It quietly says, "I am behind, I am failing, or I am less than others." Over time, this shame hardens into an identity. People begin to introduce themselves to life as someone who struggles. Identity-based prayer dissolves that shame by separating the situation from the self. You may be experiencing financial pressure, but you are not pressure. You may be in debt, but you are not broken. This separation restores dignity, and dignity is magnetic. When dignity returns, decision-making improves. You stop making fear-based choices just to survive the moment. You start thinking in terms of sustainability and growth. You invest in skills, relationships, and habits that support long-term stability. You speak differently in conversations about money. You negotiate with more confidence. You set boundaries where you once overgave. These changes may seem small, but they accumulate. And as they accumulate, money begins to respond, not dramatically at first, but consistently. Another important shift is how you interpret delays. Begging interprets delay as rejection. Identity interprets delay as preparation. When you believe you are fundamentally aligned with provision, a closed door does not crush you, it informs you, it redirects you. You become less reactive and more strategic. This emotional steadiness makes you easier to support, easier to trust, and easier to partner with. Many financial breakthroughs come through other people, and people are drawn to those who stand in quiet self-respect rather than desperation. In conclusion, the forgotten prayer for unexpected money is not a plea from weakness, but a declaration from truth. It reminds you that your value is not measured by your bank balance and that your future is not controlled by your current situation. When you pray from identity, you reclaim authority over your choices, your mindset, and your direction. Begging collapses the self, identity restores it, and when the self is restored, grounded, dignified, and aware, money no longer needs to be begged for. It finds its way to you as a response to who you have remembered yourself to be. Lack is often a learned pattern, not a destiny. This idea challenges one of the most deeply rooted beliefs people carry about money, that struggle is inevitable and scarcity is permanent. Many individuals grow up observing stress around finances, hearing constant warnings about not having enough, or watching hard work fail to produce security. Over time, these experiences do more than inform behavior. They shape identity. Scarcity becomes familiar, and what is familiar feels normal, even when it causes pain. People then mistake this normality for fate, believing they were simply born unlucky or destined to struggle. Learned lack operates quietly. It hides in habits, language, and expectations. Someone may say they want abundance, but their actions reveal a different script. They expect things to go wrong. They assume money will disappear as soon as it arrives. They hesitate to dream too far ahead because disappointment feels safer than hope. This mindset is not a personal failure. It is a conditioned response. When lack is learned early, the nervous system treats abundance as unfamiliar and even threatening. Stability feels strange. Ease feels suspicious. So the mind unconsciously returns to what it knows: struggle. One of the clearest signs of learned lack is the belief that effort must equal suffering. Many people believe that if something feels easy, it must be wrong or undeserved. They distrust opportunities that come smoothly and gravitate toward paths that involve exhaustion and sacrifice. This belief keeps them trapped in cycles of burnout, reinforcing the idea that money is always hard to obtain and impossible to keep. Yet this belief was not chosen consciously. It was absorbed through observation and repetition. Another sign of learned lack is self-sabotage. When money begins to improve, unexpected expenses appear, poor decisions are made, or motivation suddenly drops. This is not bad luck. It is the nervous system trying to restore a familiar baseline. Abundance disrupts the identity of the struggler, and the mind resists identity loss even when the new identity is healthier. Without awareness, people unconsciously push money away to protect the story they know. Breaking a learned pattern requires more than positive thinking. It requires recognizing that scarcity is not a moral virtue, and that suffering is not proof of worth. Many people tie their self-respect to how much they endure. Letting go of lack can feel like letting go of identity, community, or even spirituality. This is why change feels frightening. Growth threatens the comfort of familiarity. Relearning abundance begins with noticing language. Phrases like "I'm always broke," "money never stays," or "people like me don't get ahead" reinforce the pattern. These statements are not facts, they are rehearsed conclusions. When they are repeated, the mind looks for evidence to support them. Slowly, awareness interrupts this loop. Instead of fighting the thought, you question it. Where did I learn this? Who modeled this for me? Is this belief serving who I am becoming? Relearning also involves emotional safety. If abundance feels unsafe, it will not stay. This means learning to sit with ease without guilt, to experience stability without waiting for collapse. It means practicing responsible behavior when money comes, planning, saving, and investing, so the mind learns that abundance does not lead to chaos. Over time, the nervous system adjusts. What once felt unfamiliar becomes normal. Unexpected money often appears during this relearning phase, not as a reward but as confirmation. A refund arrives, an opportunity opens, or support appears from an unexpected source. These moments test the new pattern. Will you believe it can stay, or will you brace for loss? Each response reinforces either the old story or the new one. In conclusion, Lack is rarely a fixed destiny. More often, it is a script learned through experience, repetition, and emotional memory. When you recognize scarcity as a pattern rather than a prophecy, you regain choice. You can interrupt the cycle, retrain your expectations, and allow a new relationship with money to form. The forgotten prayer is not asking to escape fate, but to awaken from conditioning. And once awareness replaces habit, abundance no longer feels foreign. It feels possible, natural, and sustainable. Unexpected money arrives through unexpected doors. This idea often feels frustrating because the mind prefers predictability. People want money to come through familiar paths, salary increases, routine clients, safe investments, or methods they already understand. When those channels slow down or close, fear sets in and imagination shrinks. The mistake is assuming that provision is limited to known routes. In reality, money often bypasses the paths we obsess over and enters through doors we once ignored, dismissed, or delayed. Unexpected doors are usually subtle at first. They appear as ideas that feel slightly uncomfortable, conversations that seem inconvenient, or opportunities that do not match previous plans. Because they don't look like money, they are easy to overlook. Many people pray for financial relief, but unconsciously reject the form in which the answer arrives. They want certainty before movement, guarantees before action, and clarity before commitment. But unexpected money requires a different posture, one of openness rather than control. Often, these doors are connected to past experiences, skills, or interests that were set aside. A talent you once enjoyed but never monetized. A connection you didn't follow up on because you felt unworthy. A problem you solved for yourself that others are willing to pay to understand. These doors remain closed not because they lack potential, but because self-doubt labeled them unrealistic. When pressure increases, people double down on what isn't working instead of exploring what feels unfamiliar. Fear plays a central role in missing unexpected doors. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of being seen, or fear of success itself. Success carries responsibility, visibility, and change. For someone used to surviving quietly, this can feel threatening. So the mind protects itself by dismissing possibilities before they require courage. It says, "That won't work," "It's too late," or "People like me don't do that." These thoughts feel logical, but they are often fear disguised as realism. Unexpected doors also frequently come through people. A casual conversation, a recommendation, an invitation, or an introduction can shift financial direction. But these moments require presence. When someone is consumed by stress, they listen poorly, rush interactions, and miss signals. Openness sharpens awareness. When you are not internally shouting about what is wrong, you can hear what is possible. Many breakthroughs happen simply because someone was calm enough to notice an opening. Another reason unexpected doors remain closed is attachment to identity. If you have always seen yourself a certain way, new opportunities can feel like a threat to who you think you are. A person who identifies as bad with money may resist entrepreneurial ideas. Someone who sees themselves as just surviving may reject growth-oriented roles. Letting an unexpected door open often requires allowing your identity to expand. This expansion can feel destabilizing, even when it leads to freedom. Timing also matters. Some doors were not ignored forever, they were ignored too long. Opportunities have seasons. An idea that arrives repeatedly is often an invitation. When it keeps returning, it is asking for attention. Ignoring it does not make it disappear. It simply waits until circumstances force change. Many people recognize unexpected doors only in hindsight, realizing that what they once dismissed was the answer they were asking for. Opening these doors does not mean reckless risk. It means curiosity instead of fear, exploration instead of dismissal. It means asking, "What if this is a pathway?" rather than "Why this won't work?" Small steps matter. Research, conversations, learning, and testing build clarity without overwhelming the system. Unexpected money rarely comes from a single leap. It comes from responding to nudges with consistency. In conclusion, unexpected money does not arrive randomly. It comes through doors that do not match old expectations or familiar patterns. These doors require openness, courage, and a willingness to release rigid ideas about how provision should look. When you stop demanding certainty and start allowing curiosity, pathways reveal themselves. The forgotten prayer is not only for money, but for vision, the ability to recognize opportunity when it does not wear the disguise you expected. You must become a safe container for abundance. This idea shifts the conversation away from how to get money and toward how to hold it. Many people focus intensely on attracting financial gain, but very little attention is given to whether their inner world can sustain it. Money behaves like energy. It flows toward structures that can support it and away from environments that are unstable. If abundance enters a life filled with chaos, fear, or self-sabotage, it will not stay. Becoming a safe container is not about perfection. It is about readiness. A safe container begins with emotional stability. When emotions swing wildly between hope and despair, money feels unsafe. Sudden spending, avoidance of financial reality, or impulsive decisions often come from emotional overload rather than logic. Abundance requires the ability to pause, reflect, and respond instead of reacting. This does not mean suppressing emotions. It means understanding them well enough that they do not control behavior. When someone can experience money-related stress without collapsing or panicking, they signal readiness for more responsibility. Mental clarity is another essential element. A cluttered mind creates scattered action. When goals are unclear, priorities constantly shift, and focus dissolves, money cannot be directed effectively. It leaks through distractions and half-finished plans. Becoming a safe container involves simplifying, knowing what matters, setting clear intentions, and aligning daily actions with long-term vision. Clarity gives money direction. Without it, even large amounts can disappear quickly, leaving the person confused and discouraged. Boundaries also define a safe container. Many people lose money not because they lack income, but because they lack boundaries. They overgive, undercharge, or rescue others at their own expense. These patterns often come from a desire to be accepted or needed. Abundance requires the ability to say no without guilt and yes without resentment. Boundaries protect energy, time, and resources. When money sees that it will not be drained through people, pleasing, or impulsive generosity, it stays. Order plays a quiet but powerful role. Abundance prefers order over chaos. This includes practical order tracking finances, planning, and organizing responsibilities, but also internal order. When thoughts constantly contradict each other, when values are unclear, or when self-talk is harsh and conflicting, abundance feels unstable. Order does not mean rigidity, it means coherence. When inner values match outer actions, money finds consistency. Self-trust is another cornerstone. If you do not trust yourself, money will feel unsafe with you. This lack of trust shows up as procrastination, avoidance, or reliance on external validation. Becoming a safe container means keeping small promises to yourself, following through on decisions, and learning from mistakes without self-punishment. Each act of self-trust strengthens the internal structure that abundance relies on. There is also a spiritual and psychological aspect to containment, worthiness. Many people unconsciously believe they are not meant to have more. They associate wealth with guilt, corruption, or loss of identity. When money arrives, they rush to get rid of it to restore emotional comfort. Becoming a safe container involves redefining worth, not as something earned through suffering, but as something inherent. When worthiness is stable, abundance no longer threatens identity. Unexpected money often tests containment. A sudden opportunity, gift, or increase reveals what still needs strengthening. Do you rush to spend? Do you hide? Do you feel anxious? These reactions are feedback, not failure. They show where growth is needed. With awareness, each experience builds capacity. In conclusion, abundance does not stay where it is not safe. Becoming a safe container is about creating emotional stability, mental clarity, strong boundaries, inner order, and self-trust. It is about becoming someone who can receive without fear and hold without guilt. When the container is ready, money no longer comes and goes unpredictably. It recognizes the structure, feels supported, and settles. Responsibility attracts provision. This principle challenges the common belief that money first arrives and responsibility follows. In reality, it often works the other way around. Life tends to offer resources to those who demonstrate the capacity to manage, protect, and grow what they already have. Responsibility is not about being burdened or overwhelmed. It is about showing readiness. When someone consistently acts with care, follow through, and integrity, they send a clear signal that they can be trusted with more. Responsibility begins with attention. People who attract provision notice details. They know where their money goes, how their time is spent, and what their commitments require. This awareness creates stability. When money enters a life where nothing is tracked or reflected upon, it disappears quietly. Not because the person is careless, but because responsibility has not yet become a habit. Attention transforms income into resources instead of fleeting relief. Another dimension of responsibility is ownership. Responsible individuals do not blame circumstances, people, or timing for everything that goes wrong. They recognize external challenges, but they focus on what they can control. This mindset builds resilience. When money senses ownership, it stays. Blame repels provision because it avoids accountability. Ownership invites growth because it creates solutions. Even small acts of ownership, paying a bill on time, correcting a mistake, or admitting a poor decision, build the internal structure that abundance relies on. Responsibility also shows up in consistency. One-time effort does not attract long-term provision. Consistent action does. This includes showing up when motivation fades, maintaining standards when no one is watching, and honoring commitments even when they feel inconvenient. Money follows consistency because consistency reduces risk. People, opportunities, and systems respond to those who can be relied upon. Reliability creates reputation, and reputation opens doors that income alone cannot. Stewardship is another key expression of responsibility. Stewardship means treating resources, money, skills, relationships, and opportunities as something to be cared for, not consumed impulsively. When someone respects what they have, even if it is small, they demonstrate readiness for expansion. Disrespect shows up as waste, neglect, or entitlement. Provision avoids environments where it is misused or undervalued. Stewardship invites growth because it signals appreciation and foresight. Responsibility also involves decision-making under pressure. When finances are tight, it is easy to react emotionally. Responsible behavior means pausing long enough to choose wisely, even when the choice is uncomfortable. This might mean delaying gratification, having difficult conversations, or seeking guidance instead of avoiding reality. These moments strengthen capacity. Each responsible decision builds confidence and trust, not only with others, but within oneself. Unexpected money often appears after responsibility is demonstrated without immediate reward. Someone continues to act with integrity even when recognition is absent. They prepare even when outcomes are uncertain. They handle small resources with care. Then, when opportunity arises, it feels sudden, but it was preceded by unseen preparation. Provision often waits until responsibility is proven, not promised. There is also a relational aspect to responsibility. People trust those who handle obligations well. Trust leads to recommendations, partnerships, and access. Many financial breakthroughs come through relationships, and relationships depend on reliability. When others feel safe relying on you, they are more likely to involve you in opportunities that bring provision. In conclusion, responsibility is not a punishment, it is an invitation. It signals readiness for growth and capacity for trust. Money moves toward environments where it is respected, managed, and multiplied. When you take responsibility for what is already in your care, your choices, your resources, your actions, you align with provision, and in that alignment, opportunities begin to appear, often in ways that feel unexpected but are deeply earned. Expectation is faith in action. This idea reframes expectation not as wishful thinking or entitlement, but as a quiet, steady confidence that shapes behavior and perception. Many people confuse expectation with pressure. They believe expecting good things will only lead to disappointment. As a result, they lower their expectations to protect themselves emotionally. While this may reduce short-term pain, it also limits long-term possibility. When nothing is expected, nothing is prepared for, and opportunities often pass unnoticed. Expectation influences how the mind scans the environment. When you expect lack, you unconsciously search for confirmation. You notice obstacles, delays, and risks more than openings. When you expect provision, your awareness expands. You become attentive to options, ideas, and connections that previously blended into the background. This is not fantasy, it is focus. Expectation directs attention, and attention shapes reality. What you are prepared to see, you are more likely to recognize. True expectation is calm, not frantic. It does not rush outcomes or demand instant results. It carries patience. This is why expectation is faith in action. It trusts the process even when timing is unclear. People who live in expectation do not freeze during waiting periods. They prepare. They organize their lives as if what they believe will arrive actually can. They develop skills, clean up unfinished business, and position themselves for opportunity. Preparation is expectation made visible. Another important aspect of expectation is posture. How you stand internally affects how you move externally. When someone expects nothing, their posture collapses. They speak softly, hesitate often, and shrink their goals. When someone expects provision, their posture changes. They communicate with clarity, make decisions with confidence, and take responsibility seriously. Others sense this shift. Opportunities often flow toward those who carry themselves as if they belong in the room. Expectation also influences endurance. Without expectation, effort feels pointless. With expectation, effort feels meaningful. Even when results are delayed, the person continues because they believe something is forming. This belief fuels consistency. Many people quit just before momentum builds, not because they lacked ability, but because they lacked expectation. Faith in action is what keeps someone showing up after disappointment without becoming bitter. There is also an emotional safety in expectation. When someone expects provision, they are less reactive to temporary setbacks. A missed opportunity becomes feedback, not failure. A delay becomes adjustment, not rejection. This emotional resilience protects energy. Instead of spiraling into fear, the person remains open. Openness is critical because unexpected money often arrives through routes that require flexibility and adaptability. Expectation does not eliminate uncertainty, but it changes how uncertainty is experienced. Instead of fear, uncertainty becomes curiosity. Instead of paralysis, it invites exploration. This mindset encourages learning and growth. People in expectation ask better questions. What can I improve? Who can I connect with? What is this moment teaching me? These questions move life forward. Expectation must be grounded in responsibility and alignment. Without these, it turns into entitlement. Faith in action is not passive waiting. It is active participation. It respects timing, but does not avoid effort. It trusts provision while honoring preparation. When expectation is balanced this way, it becomes a stabilizing force rather than a fragile hope. In conclusion, expectation is not naive optimism. It is disciplined belief expressed through action. It shapes attention, posture, endurance, and resilience. When you expect provision, you live differently. You prepare, you remain open, and you persist. This inner stance creates conditions where opportunities can appear and be recognized. And when unexpected money arrives, it does not feel shocking. It feels like confirmation that faith, quietly practiced, has been working all along.